Hey, this is Kyle from Wake, and you're listening to the Dan Chan Show.
Hey Kyle, how's things in very hot, sunny Calgary, Canada?
Fantastic, man. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Melting just like you are today, melting.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all right. We can cope with it. So thanks for joining me on the show. First off, your album Thought Form Descent is a few weeks old now. Are you pleased with the overall reaction?
Yeah, man, it's been great. It's been better than I was actually expecting.
Why?
Well, I mean, we figured it was going to do good, but I mean, just the overall response has been great. Like we ended up on the Billboard. That's a thing I never thought would happen in my life. So that was pretty cool.
How did that happen? Is that in Calgary or is that somewhere else, or is someone paid
No,
for it?
that's all over the world. Like we made a bunch of charts in Canada, then a bunch of charts in the US as well.
Oh, you know
I'm
what?
not sure exactly.
That's me with my gin and tonic. You said Billboard. I just imagined a billboard on the side of the road. I know you Americans, North Americans,
yeah.
Billboard charts. Sorry, that's my
Billboard charts. Yeah.
A very dumb moment for me. That I just imagined your awesome album cover on some kind of side of the road. You know what I mean?
I mean, I would be thrilled if I saw it.
I was like, what? On the side of the road? Brilliant. But no, you made some chart positions. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, the response has been fantastic. I mean, everyone seems really positive about it, so it's really cool.
That's amazing, mate. That's the main thing. And do you ever find yourself like, searching out reviews late at night when you've had a drink, you don't care what you see, or do you kind of avoid those kind of things? Wait for the label to send you like your file?
No, I mean, I'm just curious, so I always look them up. And so, I mean, for the most part, they've been great. I mean, there's been some criticisms here and there, but I mean, you know what? I'll take a few bad with a lot of good.
Do you remember? I don't know how old you are, but I remember Metallica on their Black Album tour. They did the old days where you used to have a tour program, and I think it was like 91, 92 tour, and they had every bad quote that anyone had ever said about them in the whole thing. So you think of this as everything slagging Metallica off. I thought that was a cool thing to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fun.
So I understand you threw yourselves into the music to get over all the pandemic lockdowns and restrictions. This album has a proper COVID stamp on it. Am I right?
It does. Yeah. We, cause, when we released Devouring Ruin, that released, I think 7 days after the border had shut down. We were supposed to go on tour with Origin, Defeated Sanity, and Beneath the Massacre. And so that album saw no touring. We did an EP in the meantime, which was total lockdown, like distancing and everything. That was the Confluence EP. And then I think it was only a few months after that we started writing this one. We had nothing else to do.
But that was, so you used that time wisely, got a record. Were you actually able to get together physically to write and record, or did you do things, you're bouncing ideas back and forward in files?
No, for Confluence, that was like the guys getting together in the jam space, and they were, masked up doing their social distancing as best as they could. And then they would send me the files for that. But for the Thought Form Descent, writing, we were just all in the jam space. At that point, things were starting to peter out on the pandemic end. So we just got together and we wrote that all in the same space.
And how do you write in like the old fashioned way of like getting in a room together and thrashing out ideas, or are things sent files bouncing across, areas to each other?
Musically, that's the way it's done. They get together and they hash everything out, and then we'll demo it, review it. And then once they get like a solid body of music, they send it to me, and then I'll just focus on the writing for that.
So lyric wise, obviously you write all the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the themes you like to write about? I know in the past you've written about more personal things, and you've gone into kind of like a story arc kind of ideas and stuff. I mean, what are the themes? What are we writing about?
Yeah, I mean, so before it was a lot of personal stuff, like socio-political stuff as well. Over the years, that kind of started to wear on me a bit, and then once the pandemic
stuff
hit,
in Canada, you guys sit on the fence. It's easy for you guys. You can't write about Justin Trudeau. That guy's a legend. Come on.
Oh man.
It's not like Canada's Trump across the border.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean we have to write about Canadian politics.
Oh, that's true. That's true. There's no anarchy on the streets of Calgary.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus, it's been rough around here the last little while. We got our whole freedom fighter convoys and stuff like that. So it's there's a lot of material if you want it. But moving into the pandemic, things were pretty terrible everywhere. There was just vitriol on the internet everywhere. Between friends, family, everything. And when I started writing the Thought Form Descent lyrics, it was kind of in the same vein as the last stuff, like Devour and Ruin. It was a lot more personal. And I was focusing on a lot of negative stuff. And when I did the first two songs that they had sent me, I kind of like looked at it like, I don't really want to write this stuff anymore. And, I was kind of in a bad place because I think everybody was in a bad place. And I didn't want to focus on all that negativity anymore because for me, mentally, it's not healthy at all. So trying to figure out what I was going to do with that. I just kind of like, I'm a big science fiction fan. And I kind of came to the guys with this idea to write a story, and they were super down with it. So we just kind of went in that direction. And in this, it's about a character who's kind of more or less me, because I do put my own personal stuff into it. It's drenched in metaphor and allegory, like you could never tell. But it's about this character who's at odds with waking life, and he has a near-death experience, and trying to get back to this place that he experienced after this near-death experience. He uses the means of meditation, lucid dreaming, and altered states to try and get back there, and for better or worse, kind of finds out what's beyond our reality.
That's cool. So it's concept then, full concept.
Yeah, total concept. And like I describe it as a non-linear story because originally when they sent it to me, we had a demo of tracks like 1 to 8 or whatever it was. And I wrote the beginning there, kind of every song was the next chapter. But as we kind of went along and messed around with the track listing, the songs got mixed up. So now I describe it as a non-linear science fiction story.
I get you. And, do you ever get nervous before releasing an album? Do you ever wondering what the fans are going to think? Do you think that when you're writing, or do you just wait and see what happens, like we discussed with the reviews and stuff, or do you not care?
I always worry about it a little bit because Wake's a band that you don't really know how people are going to respond to it because we're always changing. But at this point now, after a thought-formed descent, I think if people are a fan of Wake, they're just kind of along for the ride at this point. And they don't expect the same thing over and over. So I think now I'm going to worry about it less, but it's always in the back of my head, like, are people going to think this is too soft? Or like, are they not going to be down with these changes? But like I said, like the response has been great so far. The people who liked us before, we've lost a couple of fans for sure, but I think we gained a whole lot too.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it there. What Wake fans need to know that they're along for the ride, because the difference between a Devouring Ruin and Thoughtful Form Descent is, it's noticeable. And I was just laying on the beach a couple of days ago, going through your back catalogue, and you can see how you're evolving. How do you feel you're evolving album on album?
Oh, I mean, I love it. It's it's not so much me as it is the rest of the band. And those guys, man, they get a vision and they just go with it. And, every time I think it's just genius what they do. As for what's going to come next, man, I have no idea. Maybe we'll be a synth pop band. I don't know.
Dark wave. That's coming through.
Yeah.
Dark wave Wake would be awesome. So this is an interesting question. I like to ask this question because I mean, as a former artist myself, and I used to do this. In an ideal world, how do you envisage the first time listener to your album to listen to it? What's the best scenario in your eyes? Maybe a walk through the woods or a glass of wine by the fire. How do you see it?
Oh man, smoke a lot of weed, drink a couple glasses of wine, lay down on the floor with headphones on, and just go.
Headphones, that's the way forward. I like that. That's it.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers in this record too. A lot of stuff that that really comes through when you have good headphones on. Yeah, there's a lot of like buried synthesizer, a lot of guitar layers in there that like don't really come across when you have it just cranked in your car or on stereo.
But I totally agree. A good pair of headphones, really, you do notice. Even old stuff you don't listen to very often, you go back to it through a good pair of headphones. Like, oh god, I never noticed that before.
Well, that's because when we were growing up, I mean, I'm 38, right? So when I was like 15 years old, we had those like little knobby headphones. Like we didn't even really have cans.
Those wire things that used to go over your head. You know what I mean? Like stick them in your ears to pop out all the time. And
little foamy earbuds.
Yeah. Oh god. So talk to me about this cool album artwork. It's got fantasy-esque. Who decided on that? I love it. It's got so many meanings to it in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, we had some other art done. And at the end of the day, when the record started forming, it just kind of seemed a little bit too metal for what the music was.
Really?
Yeah, like it was a lot darker. And we kind of discussed that, we wanted something that was a little bit brighter because we felt the music was a little bit more colorful. And we always kind of, with every album, the color of the album is kind of a representation of the music itself. Misery Rights was gray and cold, like that's how we felt about the music. And then moving to Devouring, like the purple was like a little bit more colorful, but it was still dark. And with this one, we just wanted something a lot more colorful. So Samantha, the lady who did the artwork for us, I'm not sure. I think she did a band called Earth that Rob, our guitar player, had shown us. And right away, we're like, that's the girl. We want that girl to do our album art.
Yeah.
And she came back. She had this giant, like this big, colorful palette, like everything, all the colors on that are on there. And it's beautiful. It's great. And I think it represents the music really well, too, because the music's a lot more colorful on this one and a lot more atmospheric.
Absolutely. So can we talk some history? Is that all right? We'd like to go back in time a bit, Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the band has been together for how many years now? Would you say 10, 12 years? Would you say?
Okay, I'm going to say, I think Wake started in 2009.
Okay.
And I had joined a little bit before 2012.
Right. Okay. So where did it come from? How did it get to where it is now? And why did it take so long to get any, like commercial releases out there? Was it just waiting for the right administration to get behind you? Talk me through the history.
Okay. Well, I moved to Calgary back in 2008, to join a band. I was in a death grind band out of here called Cataplexus. And, through that, Wake had started, and then we played some shows together. There was an old guitar player, Sergey, who played guitar, and I was good buds with Sergey. I didn't really know anybody else in the band all that well. But they lost their singer. They got a different singer. And then they lost that singer and the drummer. And then Ryan, who's our bass player now, he was actually playing drums. And then I came in as the vocalist after that. So it was myself, Rob LaChance, Sergey, Jacob, who's no longer in the band, and Ryan on drums. And we put out the False LP, I want to say in 2012. It might have been a little bit earlier than that, but we really sat that lineup, stayed the same. Actually, just for that record, then Ryan left. We had another drummer, Brian, and we got a new guitar player, Sergey quit, Arjun, who came in, who is still the guitar player now.
Yeah.
So we had the core of the lineup here. For the most part, we did Sowing the Seeds of a Worthless Tomorrow in Portland. And then we lost that drummer. And that's when we got Josh, who's our current drummer now. And we got Ryan as a full-on bass player after that.
Uh-huh.
And then we did the
Misery. Stabilized now? Are you stabilized?
Yeah. Actually, no, Ryan came in after Misery Rights. Sorry. He came back, but he was the bass player at that time. But we did Misery Rights, I think, back in, I want to say 2018. And that was the first record we had done with David Taro. And I think that was when we had a very significant shift in quality of writing and our sound.
Yeah.
And then, after that, it's been the same lineup. It's been solid. And we did Devour and Ruin, Confluence, and now Thoughtform Descent, all with David Taro.
So is it your guitarist, I forget his name, is from Saudi Arabia?
Yes. Yeah.
So how's he settled into Canada? Obviously coming from a very strict country, playing this kind of metal. Is he going all right?
It's easy for him. He's westernized as hell, man. He's great. I think he's lived here for 15 years now. It's been quite a while. He's been over in Canada, and he was over in Saudi doing school. I'm not quite sure he was actually born in Saudi.
So what's on the touring agenda for Wake? What's going on?
Well, it's been a busy year so far. We did a full month at the beginning of the year. We went out in March for a full month with End, Yashira, and Portrayal of Guilt. Mm-hmm. And then we came back for a month, and then we did 3.5 weeks with Origin and Misery Index and Wolf King. Mm-hmm. And the record just came out on the 22nd. So we've just kind of been focusing on, flying out, doing weekend runs on Eastern Canada, and then doing release shows in Calgary and Edmonton, which we just played. They're crazy shows. It was absolutely fantastic. But other than that, we're heading out in September for a week, and then we have a week in October, and then we're doing the Decibel Metal and Beer Festival in December. And right now, that's all on the agenda. We're just kind of waiting for some tours to come our way.
Anything in Europe on the agenda?
I want to come to Europe super bad because it's been a long time, but there's nothing yet. We've been talking about it. We just don't have any solid dates. Yeah.
What was it like? Obviously, in the pandemic, I don't know about Canada and how they handled it with regards to events and things. But what was the longest gap between the gig before pandemic to the gig during or after pandemic? And what was it like hitting the stage for the first time after that big gap, if there was a big gap?
Well, I'm trying to think. We played in November, right before the pandemic. in Edmonton, and that would have been November of
19.
2019.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the pandemic hit. After that, I think the only thing that we had done, we did like an online festival for Decibel.
Mhm.
We did that, and that was fun.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think it was 2 years afterwards, and it was Edmonton again, and it was an absolute blast to get that
Was there any
message.
nerves,
It had to be.
anxiousness? Did we just get you throw yourself straight into it? How was it?
No, man, because you know what? Enough weed and booze, there's no nervousness. It's fine. But no, and like honestly, I started growing my hair out again, and by the time the pandemic ended, I had long hair, so I could just hide behind it, and that
Okay.
gets rid of all my nerves.
Sure, sure. Now I'm yet to see a live show. Obviously, you've not been to Europe for a long time. So what can anyone expect from a wake show they've never been to?
Uh, it's very loud, great atmosphere, and it's just I don't know. I think it's pretty fun.
Yeah. Okay. Simple as.
Yeah.
So I don't like to get into genres, but I'm going to with you guys because I've read so many different genre fingers pointed at you. How do you see it?
Good. I was going to say good luck. I want to know what you think. I like the more broad umbrella term of extreme metal, because
it covers a lot.
as much as I definitely as we've moved so far away from grindcore, we still get labeled as a grindcore band sometimes, which blows my mind. But I mean, hey, whatever you get out of it, right? But it's especially with this album. It's tough because before with that Devouring Ruin, people were like, "Oh, it's Black and Death," which okay, I can see that. But this one, I don't think we're any more a black metal band than we are a death metal band, a post rock band, or a grind band. I think we're just this big amalgamation of sounds that fall under the umbrella of extreme metal, and it's really hard to like pigeonhole a very specific sound unless you want to be like post death black rock or something, and it just gets kind of contrived and ridiculous.
Just say extreme. Well, I think I'll take extreme. That's just covers everything, doesn't it? You can do what you want then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, and then we can do whatever we want. Like I said, if we decide to put out some synth pop next, it's probably not too surprising.
Extreme synth pop.
Yeah, synth pop with blast beats, man.
So, Kyle, personally, when did you realize, your love for metal, and when did you start developing the voice, and when was it discovered in you? When did you find that voice, and where did it come from?
Oh, well, I mean, I started listening to metal when I was like 12 years old, and it was your regulars, it was Sepultura, Pantera, Slayer, Metallica, stuff like that. And then over the years, I think I was 17. I was still in high school, and I started a band back in where I grew up in Fort St. John, BC, this little bumpkin town. But started a band there. Kind of learned how to scream through that. It took a lot of years ruining my throat and just screaming at the top of my lungs before I actually had found my voice. But I think it was when I moved to Calgary and started singing for Cataplexus is when I started developing the voice that I use today.
Did you have any training or anything, and did you just go for it and find your own level, or?
No, man, I blew my throat out more than once. I had to get surgery one time. I had to get endoscopically have like nodes and cysts removed from my vocal cords. So that
wow.
And so I still struggle with that a little bit. I'm not nice to my voice, and I probably should take singing lessons one day.
So what new bands are turning your head right now, and what guilty pleasures do you have, Kyle? What do you listen to away? Because you can't listen to extreme all the time. None of us can. So where do you go?
I've been on this huge Megadeth kick lately.
Hold on a minute. That's not a guilty pleasure, unless you're talking about what bands are turning your head. I don't know what you're talking about.
Apparently to half of my friends, it's a guilty pleasure because I'm like the only one out of so many people that are like, Megadeth, what's wrong with you? I'm like, yeah, they're great. Because I grew up listening to that stuff, but like going back to it, I'm just having a blast. But I mean, I don't really have many guilty pleasures. I proudly love The Cure, one of my favorite bands of all time. Yeah. Like Pornography, their album from 1982 is, in my opinion, one of my favorite records of all time.
Yeah.
Other than that, like just, I don't know, just a whole ton of random black metal and death metal bands that are kind of escaping my mind right now. But I listen to such a broad spectrum, man. Like I go from like, stuff like King Woman to Boy Harsher to Tetragrammaticide or weird Calcuttan war metal stuff,
Yeah. Just listen to what you like, right?
Yeah, it's anything that sounds good.
No
pressure. I love hip hop too. I love sad country from the 60s. Like I just, I try to enjoy.
If you're having a barbecue, you chill out. You don't want to be blasting this music out with your family around you, do you? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, that's why it's like, I come out in my balcony every morning and blast music. have my coffee, smoke a joint, listen to Sisters of Mercy or
Oh
Fields of
yeah, then we're
Infellum or
talking.
something,
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what you
Yeah.
want. So, what's on Wake's bucket list? What do you want to achieve that you haven't already achieved? What's there? What's next? What's tangible? What's too far away that you want to get to? What is it?
Oh, stuff that's not too far away. I mean, all those sick ass European festivals. We'd love to do a European festival circuit.
Yeah,
I think that's on the bucket list. Touring with Merciful Fate. That
yeah,
would be
yeah,
another
yeah,
one.
yeah. Of course.
Judas Priest. I mean, yeah. Just I think to just keep the ball rolling and just try to get on some sick tours and make music our lives.
Mm,
Maybe we don't have to have a second job one day. We
that's
can just do
nice. Of
this. That would,
course,
yeah.
of course. So, a couple more questions, Kyle. Describe the band in 3 words. Cliche, but I want an answer.
3 words. Oh God, blood, sweat, and tears, man.
Okay, and then one more. This is not easy, right? Give me the ultimate Wake track. It's a tough one, but one that sums the band up so well. One track. If an alien came down, you're gonna play one Wake track. This is us. What do you play? So I'm gonna play it
Oh
next.
my, oh my God. Does this have to be off the last record, or is it like
Anything you
a
like.
song from?
Anything you like.
Oh man, this is a deep question. I don't even know how to answer this. I'm gonna go with something off Thought Form Descent, and I'm gonna say Observer to Master. I mean, I think that just embodies a lot of what we do. It's probably the heaviest song on the last record too, or fastest. I think it's our best on that one.
It's coming up next. Kyle from Wake, thanks for joining me tonight. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.